Hello, welcome to the Female Guides Requested podcast. Today's guest is Elaina Arenz, and this episode was recorded on January 23rd, 2023. Elaina is a AMGA rock guide, Apprentice Alpine guide, and single pitch instructor provider trainer. She's also a level 2 IRATA SPRAT rope access technician. She owns New River Mountain Guides and splits her time guiding in New River Gorge in summer and Red Rock Canyon in the rest of the year. She is currently a board member of the AMGA. Elaina was a mentor of mine on my way to becoming an AMGA SPI provider. She loves teaching and is always calm and extremely patient. I first met her at one of the AMGA annual meeting, and I embarrassed myself by acting like a teenage fan of a rock star. I couldn't believe how she kept her encouraging smile listening to all my Twitter. I still act like a fan when I interview her because she's just incredible. How she managed so many tests is beyond me, and I know she will be always one of my role models. Now, let's hear Elaina's stories. So I'm just recording right now.
Cool.
Hi, Elaina.
Hi, Ting Ting.
Thank you for coming and let me interview you.
It's great to be here and support you.
Thank you. When did I meet you? Was it during one of the annual meeting, or I contact you for Women's SPI program?
Yeah, the first time I remember meeting you was in Salt Lake City for the AMJ annual meeting.
Right.
And that was just before COVID, or maybe 2017 or 18.
It was before COVID, definitely.
It was definitely before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember seeing you, and I was like, oh, there's a female guide I haven't seen before. And then I went to the gym, and you were at the climbing gym there.
Oh, yeah, Momentum.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Right. Yeah. And I remember, if I remember correctly, we climbed a little bit together, and then we ended up maybe in one of the seminars or something after that. Maybe this SPI provider.
Oh, yeah.
Discussion.
Because I was becoming one.
Yes.
And you were not planning to teach that one, but somehow somebody got sick.
Yeah.
Jim, I think Jim was sick.
Exactly.
So
one
you
of the
have
other
to
instructors
take over.
Yeah. So I stepped in at the last minute, and you were doing your training then.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Okay, it's all coming back.
Yeah, I remember that now. It all came back to me because now I think back, I was a little bit embarrassed because I just like, Elaina, and then I just kind of approach you, like, and as if just like you're gonna tell me everything about what you have done because I was a fan and everything. And now I finally have an official chance that I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions during this interview. So, and actually I did a little digging. I Googled you obviously, and I found a few podcasts you have been on. And I'll put all the things on the show note web page so other people can listen to those things too. Cool. And so I'm not going to repeat a lot of those questions, but I think something is worth mentioning again. So you start climbing when you were 20-ish, maybe way back. Well, you're not that old, but I should not say way back.
It was way back then.
Okay. Yeah. And a friend of you took you to a climbing gym.
Yep.
And then the next day you went outside already.
Yeah.
And you got hooked.
Pretty quick. I don't know if it was next day or like the following weekend.
Right.
But I was hooked from the beginning.
Yeah. How did that feel? Because the first time I also went to a gym to learn how to rock climb the first time, but I hated it. It was so hard. I climbed this by 7, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how did it feel for you when you why did it attract you?
I guess I had a lot of positive encouragement from my friend, and I didn't know a thing about climbing. And he's like, oh, well, you're pretty good at this. You know, he's like, if you really like this, I'll take you outside. And that's even better than climbing indoors.
Yeah.
And so, the next weekend he took me. His name is Seiji Ishii. He's a long time friend who started out as my mentor, and then I became his teacher for AMGA in the end.
Oh, really?
So we came full circle, but we're still in touch and good friends.
Nice.
But so yeah, he took me out the next weekend, and I top roped this route, and he's like, you didn't fall. Do you wanna learn to lead?
Yeah, I heard that story.
I was like, what's that?
Yeah, leading, right?
I had no idea.
But you did that, right?
I did, yeah.
And successfully,
I did. I'm still here with all my appendages in one piece.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that they say something about you as the first time, But I think a lot of time with a lot of encouragement and people say, well, you look good, you're doing well. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty important thing.
Yeah.
And then, so you, after that, you're hooked, and then you start working in that the climbing gym in question.
Yep.
Awesome. Then I heard about this epic road trip from Alaska
There's been so many. Yes, that one.
Yeah, that one. Because that climbing gym is in Texas, right?
Yeah. It's in Austin, Texas. It was called Pseudo Rock.
Okay.
And it was the first gym there back in 1994 for the listeners.
You can climb I think you and I are about the same age, but you just climbing way earlier than I did.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of envious because I always wish I could start climbing earlier, but who doesn't?
I haven't met a single climber who doesn't wish they hadn't started at a younger age.
Yeah.
But...
So you drove. So when I heard that road trip, you drove from Alaska all the way to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend living in Anchorage, and I went up there to visit her for New Year's, so January. Great time to be in Alaska from South Texas, Central Texas.
Yeah, what were you thinking back then?
I don't know. Yeah. It sounded like an adventure, and I'd never been to Alaska, and I always wanted to go, and she wanted to drive her van. This is before van life was ever a thing. Right. She had a Econoline van that she had built out and wanted to drive it down to Mexico, Potrero Chico. So I flew up there and spent a week up there with her, and then we drove all the way down to Potrero we stopped over in Waco Tanks for a few weeks and bouldered there.
Right.
And had all my stuff stolen.
Ooh.
Out of her van.
Oh, and wow.
And was able to carry on.
Awesome. And then after that, you just stay in El Potrero Chico.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
because
I stayed down there for several months.
You can't quit your supposedly to be your job.
Yeah.
And then stay there because so from that year, how many years have you climbed?
That was probably 3 years or 4 years into
4 years?
Yeah, it was 97, I think. So I've been climbing 3 years.
I see. So is it safe to say that you were, when you start your El Potrero EPC, I'm not saying EPC.
I know, it's hard to say.
EPC day, you were relatively a newer climber?
Yeah. I was pretty fresh.
Because
I felt really experienced at the time.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
But looking back, I didn't know Jack.
Ooh. And because I heard so many stories about your EPC day, because a lot of people told me that, people have been developing stuff in El Potrero Chico.
Yeah.
Now I can say it.
Yeah.
But you and Kurt Smith, people say, was pretty much the one that put it on the map for more people to go to.
Yeah, there were people before us that developed the area, but we were the first to really market the area for climbing as a climbing destination. Kurt, he was my ex-husband, he would do slideshow tours and promote the area as part of his obligations to his sponsors and as a way to travel and make money by just charging for the slideshows. That was our program. We'd spend our winters down in the Potrero, winters and spring, and then we'd come back to the States during the summer and fall. And then we would, advertise and market, the area down there.
Because you and Kurt own the business there, right?
Yeah. We bought property from one of Omero's, the first local who really embraced climbers and invited the first climbers to visit the area to stay at his quinta, the Quinta Santa Graciela. And so he had a climbers campground there, and Kurt bought some land from one of his cousins to open up his own sort of campground.
Nice. So basically, because you mentioned in one of the podcasts, you also start teaching in the gym, sometimes take people outside, and now you 3 or 4 years later, in El Potrero Chico, you own a business. You're probably taking people outside because you're doing it commercially, right?
Yeah.
So
with no training, no permits, no insurance.
You see, but sometimes you just kind of figure out gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like you start climbing, and pretty much right away you start guiding.
Yeah. Looking back now, it's completely irresponsible what I did, but I had no idea.
But you was like early 20. You got all the privilege to be both.
I was making the business happen.
I don't really know Kurt that well, but I know. So he was a sponsor climber and probably one of the pros back then. I heard that he climbed like really hard.
Yeah. And was, like back when 514A was a benchmark grade, he was one of the first to climb that grade.
Right.
Of course, now it's
definitely
it's a warm up for modern climbers. But.
Yeah, but back in like 20 years ago, it's like hard.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So no problem as he's like he climbed really well. I always curious about obviously climbing hard is not something that important, but would you feel a little bit intimidated if he's probably the better climber or stronger climber in the relationship? Because probably for a long time that he's your default climbing partner. Is that right?
Yeah, for many years. Yeah.
And the reason I ask is because when I met my husband, I was just climbing for 1 year, and he has been climbing like 30 years. So I learned a lot from him. Yeah. But I also feel like I could probably gain a little bit more perspective if I climb with more people. So I'm just kind of curious what you think about it. What's the pros and cons to climb with your significant others and stuff?
I think, there's always opportunity for growth and learning whenever you're climbing with someone who has more experience than you. I think being in a relationship with someone can complicate that a bit. There's the power balance, if you want to call it that, or just the balance in relationship.
Right.
But it was a really positive experience for me. I knew of Kurt prior because he was a professional climber, but I didn't know him as an individual. But he taught me a lot about things that I thought, you don't know what you don't know, I guess. What am I trying to say? He taught me a lot about the things that I needed to like fill in the gaps of my experience and knowledge. Specifically, multi-pitch. Going to El Potrero Chico, it's a lot of multi-pitch, like sport climbing essentially. And so I remember my first multi-pitch climb I did down there prior to having climbed with him. I went to the top of the route of the first pitch, and I put 2 quick draws on the anchors, and I went in direct as if I were going to clean the anchor. And then I belayed him off the bottom carabiners of the quick draws with the ATC on my belay loop. As if I were standing on the ground, I was just doing it at the top of the route. I had no clue that there were other ways to go about it. And in those days, there were no these assisted braking devices or plaquettes like the ATC guide or the Reverso. Those hadn't been invented yet. The Grigri was barely on the market at that time, and so that's what I used. I just put either the ATC or the Grigri on my belay loop, and belayed like that. And then he showed me how to clove hitch in at the anchor and go into 2 bolts and equalize the things. And, so that was our my experience there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did you feel any pressure to perform?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think especially when we were first climbing together before we dated. He's a professional climber guy, and I wanted to show how strong I was and competent and all these things and impress him. And so, of course, there's pressure to perform.
Right. But you think overall more positive than pressure, I would say.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So after all, did you also both develop some routes. And how many years did you spend there?
97 through 2001, the years that I spent down there. And I would be down there anywhere from like 4 to 6 months out of the year. And one of Kurt's passions is route development. And so he would, I would go along to support him, haul loads and make sure there's nobody on the trails as he's tunneling, loose rock from new routes. And he taught me how to place bolts and establish routes, clean the lines and get it prepared for everyone to enjoy. And so that was something early on I developed, I would say, an eye for like always looking for new lines to do. And I really enjoy that process of going up to, a piece of cliff and then like finding the way. And you never quite know what it's going to be when you first approach it. And it's pretty exciting to solve that.
I've done some like Alpine first ascent, and it's more obvious because you want to find the crack system, right? So you can put protection track gear on that. But I found that sport climb is a little bit hard to find the line, because who know? Not until you hit the areas that you will never know whether the side pole pocket is like any good. It's very hard to see from the far.
Right.
So what did you learn over those years when you go to a virgin or blank wall per se that you can find the line, or you have to rappel down to kind of inspect?
Yeah, so you develop an eye for like the path of least resistance, and you develop the ability to see features. And fortunately for me, how I started out was bolting on rappel. So that was a easier transition into figuring out where the route goes versus going ground up. Ground up is much harder to define the line because you've never seen what's above you yet. Whereas bolting on rappel or wrap bolting, you're able to preview everything and tick where you want the protection, where the bolts to go, and kind of get it all laid out before you even take the drill to the rock and install any bolts.
Probably with more practice, you just get better, develop that.
Yeah. But you'll notice, as at least I do now anyway, routes that are bolted on lead climb very differently than ones that have been bolted on rappel.
Yeah, because you might have to climb past the cracks to a very good stance in order to bow, right? Because it just takes forever to drill that hole and stuff. Yeah.
I think it requires less. I don't know, less skill is the right word to use, but it's an easier access. Like myself, I've only been climbing 3 years and I was already learning how to place bolts, but I only had 3 years climbing experience. So I didn't have like decades of experience to inform like how to establish a route.
Right.
Only specific feedback in those moments, but it's an art, It is. It's really cool process to be a part of, and I still enjoy it. Chad, my boyfriend, and I, were always out looking for new stuff.
Yeah, because I saw your name on the guidebook, the limestone, Mojave limestone guidebook.
Yeah. There's a few out there. Yeah, not many in Nevada, but yeah.
Oh yeah, so also during those Potrero Chico days, I heard from older climbers that back then, I say, oh yeah, Elaina, her photo is always on the climbing magazine. I don't know, I didn't read those magazines, so I was wondering whether those are from the Potrero Chico days.
Yeah, there were a couple articles on the Potrero back in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, and I had pictures in there, and so I've been in the magazines, but it's been a hot minute, and I guess they don't even publish magazines anymore.
Right. But then I also heard the comment say, oh yeah, Elaina, she was in the magazine a lot and she was cute. Aww. That's what they say. And I mean, I personally think you're like really cute too. But when I started reading magazine in 2008, I remember there was still those days that they would put some random bikini girls in the climbing magazine,
Yeah.
and who are not climbers. It just happened to be the girls. They went to some sea cliff climbing destination and then on the boat and stuff. And I was just like, why do they not put female climbers in? So do you think that back then there were a lot of women in the climbing magazine back in the 90s? Or
There weren't. I mean, I think I could count all of the climbers in Austin, the female climbers, on both my hands at that time. And there were some really strong, inspiring women. And I was intimidated by them because I was the new kid, and they were more experienced climbers that climbed hard. And I definitely looked up to them and wanted to be like them and climb hard as they did.
Were they in magazines?
No, none of them were anybody famous.
Right.
I guess the most famous person was Christina Jackson, who was married to Jeff Jackson at the time, and she was out there doing it, climbing 513 and just crushing and putting up new routes. And so I looked up to her as I never knew her really well. She left climbing as soon as about the time I was coming into it, so our paths didn't overlap too much in the climbing world, but she was one of the first female climbers that I looked up to.
I see.
And of course, Lynn Hill.
Yeah, Lynn Hill is the legend.
She freed the nose right when I started climbing.
Oh, yeah, 1993.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next year went for a day ascent.
Yep. Yeah, so all that was just starting to...
Definitely probably pretty big news, right?
Yeah.
So was Lynn Hill one of your early role models then?
Oh, for sure.
For sure, right?
Yeah, she still is. And I became, I had opportunities to work with her when I moved to the New River Gorge and bought my guide service, New River Mountain Guides. I interacted with her at the trade shows, at the outdoor retailer trade shows, and met her. And she wanted to come to, she wanted to do these climbing instructional clinics. And so we organized one at the New River Gorge, and she came and she spent the week there.
Wow.
It was really cool to give her the tour and watch her absolutely crush every route that we could put in front of her. It was just so much style and grace. And that was before I had any AMGA training or certification when I bought the guide service. And so I kind of leveraged my relationships with people like Lynn Hill and Lisa Arenz and
Lisa Arenz,
Craig Lubin. They were early like friendships and mentorships that I helped bring to the guide service and kind of market that way.
Probably just back in those days that you also do tours and probably a little relationship with climbing magazine or curse circles, and you get to know all these people.
Yeah.
Right. So then you can bring them together to teach clinic and everything to kind of help you to grow your business.
Exactly.
I see. Oh, that's cool. I guess that's one of the good things about you if you have a good network.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you just get to know a lot of people because I just like, how do you find mentors? How do you find role models? A role model is probably you can read the magazines, but I'll ask you back to the topic. Do you think back then, as a female climbing with outstanding performance is not the only thing? They also have to be cute like you, so to be like featured magazine. Lynn Hill is definitely a legend, so the magazine is gonna talk about.
Yeah, I think probably back in the early days, they were looking for pretty faces, but I think a lot of those women not only were beautiful, they were also beautifully strong.
Definitely. Oh, actually, I read the thing. So I heard about the thing. So you say you have 2 or 3 brothers?
Yeah, 3 brothers.
3 brothers, and you were the only girl in your family.
Yep.
And do you think that also, well, I don't know whether I should say help, but in a way, so it's a little bit easier for you to navigate through the traditionally men-dominated terrain?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably so, I would say, because I'm used to being around men and boys, my whole entire life, trying to keep up and, not get crushed. my brother's case, but no, my brothers are great. I love them.
Are those like all older brother, or they sound...
Two older and one
see.
Younger.
Right.
Yeah. So I've always been very comfortable navigating a male dominant environment.
Probably help anyway a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So they are not those intimidating, but not that intimidating.
Yeah. I can't recall ever being intimidated by that sort of setting.
I see. Then, so you mentioned that you've been guiding, and we'll talk about AMGA, which is the American Mountain Guides Association. I know right now you're pretty involved with the AMGA. You went to the education. You are right now on the board. And how did it all start?
Gosh, at the very beginning, I guess my first knowledge of the AMGA was working with Craig Lubin when Lynn Hill came to do her camps. Craig Lubin came as like the site safety supervisor.
Site safety supervisor. I mean, he can teach a lot of things too.
Yeah. He guided. He was one of the guides on that trip, and so I got to know him through that, and he was an AMGA certified rock guide and working towards his Alpine certification.
Oh yeah, that kind of reminded me about that accident.
Yeah. So we kept in touch, and every year I would bring him out to do clinics, and eventually so that's how I became aware of the AMGAs through Craig. And Craig I really looked up to him and admired him. He was a great guy, really down to earth and easy to get along with, very humble. He was a great teacher, and so he really inspired me to seek certification or training and certification.
I see.
And so I got my top rope site manager.
Back then, the SPI single pitch instructor is still the top rope site management.
And then after a few years, I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be the boss lady of this guide service, then I need to have a higher level training and certification than the people I employ.
Probably not a bad idea.
Yeah. And so I reached out to Craig to see if he would hold a private rock instructor course at Seneca Rocks. Because none of the courses were offered at a schedule or a place that was convenient for me. And so I was like, I'll bring the instructor to me and I'll
Great. So back then you already think outside the box.
Yeah. Yeah. So I lined up a private course at Seneca Rocks with Craig and secured other students for him to come out and teach. And we spent 10 days there and just had a blast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I can see why you're so good at your business. Right? Look, I'm just do this thing, I'm invite this thing, and I make all this happen. Oh, gee, I need to learn some trick from you for sure.
It's those developed relationships, and working your connections.
Yeah. So you start your AMGA track. So you are serious investor in guiding. You was. I don't really think guiding was your childhood dream. Right?
Oh no! I mean, I never in a million years I think I would end up where I am right now.
I'm just curious. What do you actually have a childhood dream? It's like, when I grow up, I want to be the president of the United States or something like that.
Certainly not that. But I always loved animals, and I love reading National Geographic, and so I always thought I might be some sort of like a biologist, like a field biologist, or a veterinarian, but I'm allergic to cats, so I was like, maybe.
I have 2 cats.
I'm fine. I think I've grown out of my cat allergy.
Oh, that's great.
All those years living with Tracy, I think, really,
Tracy,
it was like immersion therapy, exposure therapy, so I'm far less allergic now than I was as a younger person. But yeah, I always loved animals, and when I started college, I started out studying marine biology in Galveston, Texas, and I thought that would be a good fit for me, but my brain is not mathematically or scientifically programmed or wired.
I don't know. I think your math should be really good. Look at how good you're running business.
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of good people around me to help with that.
So basically, climbing kind of hijacked your career path.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the first year I studied marine biology, and then that wasn't gelling with my brain, and moved to Austin, and that's when I got met Seiji, my friend who taught me how to climb.
Right.
He worked at a restaurant close by to the pottery stand I was working at. I worked for these old hippie potters in Austin, who are Rob and Debbie Wright, great people.
Nice.
But Seiji worked and managed the restaurant right next door. And Seiji helped to start the first climbing gym in Austin.
Wow.
And he employed a lot of climbers at this restaurant. So I would go into there to eat on my lunch breaks and things. And they were all talking about climbing this, climbing that. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about?
Right.
What is this rock climbing stuff? And so that's when he took me to the gym. And
I see.
The rest is history.
Great. So you've been guiding then 20
long
years ish or more?
Yeah, I mean, very early. I started working at the climbing gym, within the first year of climbing. And then I would take people outdoors occasionally. And people would be like, hey, Elaina, I want to climb outside. And I was like, well, I'll take you. I could use some gas money.
Yeah, back then, gas money.
Back then, back in the day.
Right.
And then I would also help out with Mountain Madness, which was our local guide service in Austin.
Wait, I thought Mountain Madness based in Seattle.
Different Mountain Madness.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was some lawsuit involved between the two.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a small guide service in Central Texas, and so I'd help out with them when they had big groups and things like that. And then ended up down the Potrero, and that's where
Potrero Chico.
I started doing more amusing finger quotes for the listeners who can't see. Finger quote. Freelance guiding.
And then New River Gorge Mountain Guides?
Yeah, New River Mountain Guides, yeah.
Oh, New River Mountain Guides.
Yeah, and that was a guide service that was started, goodness gracious, it was 94. Yeah, it was 1994 is when that guide service was founded, and it went through several hands before falling into mine when I moved to the new in 2002.
And I know later you're also involved with Chicks with Pigs, which get rebranded, and we'll talk about those things. And you also guide in Red Rock too. So you must like guiding enough to keep doing it. So what do you find the most rewarding thing for guiding?
Well, I think in the beginning it was out of necessity.
Yes, for just like, okay, I need to supply, support myself and
make
stuff.
A living,
right? Yeah,
and do the things. But I also enjoyed the learning process, of undergoing training and certification. I valued that. So I just kind of fell into it, like you're saying. It's like I didn't, as a little girl, didn't say, "Oh, when I grow up, I'm going to be a climbing guide." I really loved climbing, and I wanted to, get paid to do that. I was never a great climber where I could be sponsored and be paid just to rock climb. I needed to leverage my skill set.
And to be honest, how many sponsor climbers can really do that?
They're getting paid in shoes and ropes and clothes.
Right, so only
for the most part.
Right, only those handful of climbers can
only
really
the most elite level are getting paid like actual cash, like a paycheck.
Right.
But for years I collected, and all the gear and equipment and stuff like that.
So your first AMGA course was with Craig Lubin. He
was the first person that I knew who was an AMGA certified guide, and I was like,
I see.
Tell me more about that. And so that's why I became aware of the AMGA and what their mission. And then I took a course through Adam Fox,
Fox Guide, right?
Fox Mountain Guides down in North Carolina. Adam is, he kind of built the Top Rope Site Manager, which then became the Single Pitch Instructor program. And he modeled that after the system that they use over in England.
I see. your first longer course is the one that you organized with Craig Lubin, the rock instructor course. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I never met Craig, but his reputation, right, precedes him as pretty good educator. So that course must be pretty positive.
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah, it was great.
And then later on, because before I jump into AMGA track, I heard a lot of rumors that say don't do it. Mm-hmm. And so, what do you think? You think it also have seen AMGA grow and evolve and things? You think do their course have really evolved into a pretty robust course nowadays, or back then and all that? Like, tell me a little bit about the history you have observed.
And how my history and how it's changed since then. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot more women involved.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the early days, it was just all dudes in plaid shirts and visors or trucker caps.
Okay.
And yeah, it's changed quite a bit. There were some office personnel that were female, but I didn't know of any working female guides until I met Angela Hawes. And so she was a very early mentor of mine in the AMGA, and later became my business partner with Chicks. So and she's from West Virginia, so we had a lot of
I see. And how did you meet her?
I think I met her at one of the outdoor retailer trade shows. She was when Alpinist magazine first started. She worked for them. She was at the startup of the Alpinist, and I can't remember what her exact job role was there, but I remember meeting her initially as an Alpinist employee or staff person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I would never imagine. I need to find her and interview her too.
Oh, you should.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd love to talk with you.
Wow. Well, you are very good at networking and finding people.
I can hook you up with all kinds of people.
Yeah. And I think I might I'm not putting myself out there enough. There's one thing, because I just interviewed Tracy for the previous episode. And she told me about the stories that you two formed a pact to do a lot of course and exam together. And I think you initiated that. Right?
Yeah, so I remember, I took my rock instructor course with Craig Lubin at Seneca Rocks, and I was like, I was brain overload. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I ever want to move. I don't know if I'll ever take the test, the exam. I don't know if I want to be guiding multi-pitch, because it felt really overwhelming.
Interesting. But that must be because he taught a lot of good stuff there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned a lot on my course.
Yeah. So courses have their value.
They do. I mean, I already been climbing at that point probably 8 or 10 years, somewhere in there.
Wow, and you still feel like
I learned so much.
Wow.
I learned so much. And so it felt like information overload. And living on the East Coast, it was really hard to find multi-pitch terrain to practice the skills I learned on the course. I'd always have to travel. And so every winter I would travel to Joshua Tree and spend several months there, practicing everything I'd learned and trying to keep them from perishing, the skills, that is. And I kept an eye back in those days on the AMGA website. You could log on to register for a course, and you could see the other students' names.
Oh, back then,
who were signed up for the program.
I see.
So I was keeping an eye on the exam, because I knew I was getting close to feeling ready, but I wasn't sure. And I logged on one day and I saw Tracy Martin on the roster. I was like, this is a sign. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Tracy Martin. I always wanted to meet her because she spent years at the New prior to me moving there. So I always knew her name from the community, and her name was in the guidebook, and she was just this living legend that I've never met. And I saw her name there. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is a sign. I was like, another woman on a course, and it's Tracy Martin. So I signed up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if I hadn't have logged on and saw her name, then maybe I would have delayed it. But it was really motivating for me to be able to participate in an exam with another woman. Because I've never run across any other
women.
Check
and check. As if like people just log on their Instagram every single day.
I guess, yeah, sort of like that, I guess.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. Yeah. Just like, that's a sign.
It was a sign. Yeah, like, okay. I was like, Tracy's doing it. I'm going to do it too. I can't wait to meet her.
Great. Tracy said that you also encouraged her to do the advanced rock guy course and the aspirin exam and everything.
Yeah. So after that point, we we obviously kept in touch, and we did all of our rock guide programs together after that. So we're actually triple certified in rock.
And how important that is for you for this whole process, I think.
I mean, it was huge just having someone to go through and train with and be a second set of eyes and ears, because there's so much information that you uptake from these courses and advanced courses and assessments. Having someone else to really help develop all that knowledge and put it and apply it and go out there and work on using it all, it was really, really important.
If somehow you see but a male, the candidate on the course that you recognize, would you have the same feeling?
Probably not. I mean, you know Tracy.
I know Tracy. She's sweet.
She is the sweetest thing.
Yes.
And she's so attentive and such a great friend and just easy to hang out with, and you want to spend time with her.
Right.
Like, you meet Tracy and you're like instant best friends with her.
I know, yeah. I like her the first time I met her.
Yeah, she's good people that you just want to spend your time with. And
definitely.
I think that, more than anything was a really good motivator for me.
Awesome. So guiding was your main source of income for all those years, right? And during this year, we already talked about there's probably not that many female guides. So you just kind of spot Tracy. It's like, wow, another woman.
Yeah. So by the time Tracy and I got to our advanced course,
2013 or 14-ish, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah, maybe 2013 or 14. Yeah, that sounds right. Erica Engel was also
I remember her. Yes,
on our advanced course, and we're like, oh my god, 3
out of
8 of the students on this course are female.
Advanced rock guide course.
Yeah,
I didn't have any.
Yeah, so that was really cool.
Right.
And apparently there was a 4th gal signed up, and I don't know who it was. I wish I had, because it would have been like a 50-50 split.
Definitely, 50. That's sweet.
Yeah, rarity. That was before the days of affinity programs and women's specific programs and things.
Well, maybe you are always the boss, so you don't find it too challenging. But do you find any challenging part of being a female guide, though?
I have to think about that one. I guess in the early days of the guide service, I definitely had clients who would come in for their day of guiding, and I'd be like, hey, I'm Elaina, nice to meet you, I'll be taking you out today. And they'd be like, you're my guide?
Okay, yeah.
But that was like way early on.
Do anybody go to your New River mountain guides and say, oh, we want to request a female guide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely get requests for female guides, for sure.
And typically, what kind of those group are?
Usually we get a lot of families on vacation, and usually those families have kids that climb in a climbing gym somewhere, and they're looking for opportunity to give their kids an outdoor climbing experience. And a lot of those kids are little girls and teenagers and preteens, and they're just looking for a positive, sort of strong female role model.
Definitely.
For those young girls.
Great. So nice to know that you write this need out there for sure. Yeah.
For sure.
How about from the peers? Like, do you feel the peers in general respect you as a female guy, or maybe they think that you can take a certain type of job or things like that?
Yeah, I definitely feel respect from the community, and I have a respect for a lot of people in our community as well. I don't think.
Awesome.
I've never felt, talked down to or overlooked or anything like that. I've been really fortunate, I guess.
Nice.
I know that's not the experience for a lot of women out there who
Yeah.
are trying to get into this profession.
And how about like challenges that's not gender specific then for guiding?
The challenges that, we've talked about this before, is just finding the balance between work and play.
Yes.
I think every guide and instructor gets into that field of work because they love the climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And when it becomes overwhelmingly work and less overwhelmingly just for fun, then that balance can be upset.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big challenge. Yeah, I mean, I was going to discuss that with you, but since we talk about it right now, what do you think, how you manage this?
Oh, man. I've learned to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
To work. I think early on I felt the pressure to just take all the work that was offered to me, regardless of how I felt mentally or physically, if I needed rest or not.
Backtrack a little bit. So you feel obligated to take work, but was that because that you need the money, say, for that particular period of time, or you just can't say no?
Needed the money for sure.
I see.
Yeah, just wanting to establish myself in that career and just establish a relationship with the guide service.
True, because you always say no. Then
if you turn down work, then you stop getting offered the work. So I said yes, to all the guiding.
The time, yes.
Yeah.
And probably
why I'm so tired.
So at that time period, you feel like burned out a little bit though. Were you?
It was still exciting.
Newer-ish time.
Yeah. And I was psyched to get out there and be out there all the time. But now, definitely more of a burnout sort of.
And maybe you just okay, I'm now need to take care of yourself.
Take care of myself. Yeah.
So
I've gotten better about turning down work,
right,
and just being more selective with it and choosing work that isn't as hard on my body.
But that's also because you build a relationship, you have a little similarity, so you kind of have the freedom to do that. Right? So
I've definitely put a lot of time in to get here, and I know that
definitely. So it's kind of like a dilemma. Just at the very beginning, I want to say no, but maybe wait a second. But then, kind of have to have a plan to establish your position. Have you seen any notable change in the guiding community other than you said that there seems like there's slightly more women? Yeah,
there's definitely a lot more female guides. There's a lot more mentorship opportunities and affinity programs. Other changes, I think the atmosphere is more inclusive.
Yes.
And diversified, which is all great. Yeah, it's not just a bunch of white dudes in plaid shirts anymore.
How about the changes you see in the climbing community?
Definitely way more women in that.
Yeah, I think the climbing community seems the gender is more balanced than the guiding community.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of female climbers out there in the world.
You must be invested enough to be on the board of AMGA. What kind of change or what kind of things you want to make?
Change in terms of
being on the board, because I bet over there you have board meetings with other board members, and you can hear more input from the members, because I might not know everything. I'm just like a member here, so you probably can hear more too. First of all, why you want to be on the board, I guess, is my first question.
Yeah, I think initially, I guess my goal for being on the board is to support the AMGA mission, is to be the leader in training and certification and education for climbing guides in the United States. I've gotten so much fulfillment out of the training and certification process, and to be able to provide those opportunities for other people, and just help the organization, continue to be the leader in that, I think is a driving motivation for me. They're setting the standards and legitimizing the profession in the eyes of not just the membership, but our clients and the general public, I think is really important to increase the brand recognition of the AMGA, so our clients are asking for AMGA trained and certified guides.
I know on the board they also have a subcommittee, right? So what are the subcommittees that you are on?
There's a bunch of committees. I'm on the executive committee.
Okay.
I was elected to the secretary position this last election cycle by the board of directors. So I sit in the executive session committee meetings now, which is the board chair, the president, the executive director, the vice president, and myself. So it's a small group of us who are now sort of steering the ship, taking feedback from the board and taking feedback from the members to keep us on course.
I see.
But other than the executive committee, I'm also on the technical committee and also the scope of practice committee.
Is scope practice in effect now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because they've been postponing for a couple of times, so I'm
COVID kind of put the brakes on a lot of the implementation of scope of practice. But as an SPI provider, I've been held to that standard prior to its full passage. And so scope of practice is in full effect now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I won't. Well, I never.
Yeah. For those who are listening, scope of practice is just ensuring that guides are just working in the terrain they're trained and certified to be in. So you're not a single pitch instructor guiding Denali.
Definitely not. It's a very different skill.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see that coming full circle, because you were saying that the early pirate days you had very early.
I had no idea.
Right, and then climbing 8 to 10 years, you took a course and was like, wow, actually you still learn a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I went from a pirate guide to...
you recognize the value and trying to push it into standard.
To legitimize it as a profession.
Right.
So I think a lot of the public out there, and there's a lot of guides out there who are untrained, uncertified, and the public doesn't know the difference between us and them. And it shouldn't be an us and them, but
it's true.
But it is.
Yes. We both are guys. We know that guiding and personal climbing are like two different things. But what would you say that if you want to tell our listeners like the biggest differences?
The biggest difference between guiding and recreational climbing?
Just I have this good climbing friend who's just gonna take me on.
Professionalism for one, accountability for reliability and risk management.
Yes.
And just trained to be able to handle any situation that you encounter. It's crazy today. There's a lot of folks that are learning from people who just learned themselves, in the last few months.
Right.
And just like me, my first climbing experience, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that. Yeah,
especially
leading my route, my second day climbing ever was a bad idea. I just trusted my friend, and thank God it all worked out.
Obviously, a lot of times, if you are not actively expose yourself to all those same information, you never know that you didn't know.
Yeah, and back then we didn't have the internet, really, and the forums and the resources and social media and YouTube and all the educational resources out there. But I feel like there's so much out there. It's hard to wade through it all and know what is legitimate and what is not.
I mean, right now it's almost this problem with too much information.
It's too much information.
Yeah, everybody can post a photo about anchor and criticize about it.
Oh yeah.
Because I have students just send me this random photo they saw on the internet. I just what's the context? And,
right. Yeah. So and that's what's missing. Is that's what a trained and certified guide gives you, is that context for greater understanding.
And they hate that I told them it all depends on stuff. So that you gotta be some trick. Can you show me? Because look, let me count. So you guide full time. So you still own and operate New River Mountain Guides. You're on the board of AMGA, and I know that you still do other things. You have a hobby, and I know that you started to do a little bit of rope access work. how many hours do you have in your day?
Not enough.
Yeah, how do you juggle all the things? I just listing those, see, I'm overwhelmed and I'm exhausted. So how do you manage all these tasks?
I guess I've learned to ask for help when I need it, and I've learned to prioritize things, that some things need more timely action than others. I have a great manager back in West Virginia who helps me run the guide service in my absence, and without him, his name's Jeff Hearn, and he's been awesome. He's been with me for over 10 years now, managing the guide service there. So he allows me to step back from that business especially during the downtime, but I really lean on him during the season to help manage our employees and ensure customer satisfaction and all that. So I have a lot of good help along the way from a lot of different people, and just prioritize and delegate.
Nice. Now I feel very privileged. You gave me your 2 hours on my podcast. That's like precious 2 hours. So I want to come back to a little bit about the affinity programs. Mm-hmm. You were one of the pioneers of the AMGA affinity program. Is that? Can I say that?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd say I was the pioneer, but I was one of the few female instructors for the SPI, where I'm heavily involved in developing that program. But Tracy and I were the first 2 female instructors for the SPI discipline when the affinity programs came online.
And that was how many years ago? Do you remember when the very first course that you taught?
Maybe 2017 for the women's programs.
Okay, 2017. Right now it's 2023. We probably didn't do anything during the COVID time, did we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Tracy and I taught 2 together, and you came on with the Joshua Tree.
With the Joshua Tree. So you taught one in Red Rock, one in Boulder, and then I came in the Joshua Tree.
Yes, right.
And then we also did one in New River Gorge. Yep. And then I just did one with Tracy in Red Rock.
Yep.
That's like 5 programs out 6. There. Yeah, 5. Yeah. And then when it started, it was because AMGA has an initiative to do affinity program. Is that why?
Yes. Yeah, and that was really Montserrat.
Yeah, Montserrat did a lot of work, I know.
Her and Shelma June from Flash Boxy.
Yes.
And Brown Girls Climb. Those 3 organizations and people really launched the women's affinity programs and the BIPOC programs. Mm-hmm.
So you've been teaching all these years. I'm curious, what are those students? Where are all the students now? I'm always curious. Do they somehow keep on and becoming a guy, or they take this SPI skill to somewhere else? And do you still keep in contact with some of them? Mm-hmm. Were you somehow a person for them to maybe you have their network now, so they can find
I've kept in touch with quite a few of them. Of course, social media makes it easy to see what they're up to, but quite a few of them have gone on to, after having take the course, to gain certification. And some of them have moved out of it. They've gone on to, start families and do other things. And so guiding is a very hard way to make a living.
It is.
Especially, with the way the world is, things are expensive, and it's not the most sustainable career choice unless you have a safety net and people around you to support that.
Guiding might not be the most sustainable, but it obviously gives you a lot of different fulfillment. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so much financially.
Yeah, nobody gets in the guiding to become rich.
Right. I don't expect that.
Rich in experiences, maybe.
Right. I enjoy it in different ways, but obviously juggling about my finance. So a lot of time when newer people, they came to me, I always hesitant. Would I should just be this cheerful cheerleader to say, oh yeah, you should totally do it. What?
I try and talk people out of it all the time.
Is it? Because I'm just, I don't know. You gotta think about this, because I try to be honest. Mm-hmm. Just I have my own difficulty, I have my own struggle. So you try to talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's unpredictable and unreliable, and a lot of things depend on it working out for you. And it's a hard way to make a living.
So do you envision you guiding for another, I don't know how many years? Or you are trying to have different life or career plan?
Definitely diversifying.
Right.
I've been doing it long enough that I've been able to make a good career and build a reputation on it. It will always be a part of what I do. But that said, I think it's important to be diversified. And so during COVID, when all guiding ceased to happen, I was able to lean into rope access work, where I got training and certification through IRATA and SPRAT rope access organizations. So thank God I had that skill set to fall back on, because all that work, which is largely construction type industry, was still ongoing,
right?
All through the pandemic. And so while commercial guiding was gone, I was able to take work opportunities for that. So I was very fortunate with how that timing worked out.
And do you envision you would do more, or more and more that line of work, and then a little bit less on guiding?
Yeah. So the past several years, I've definitely stepped back from guiding as much, not saying yes to all the guiding work, and just being more selective. Largely just offering AMGA single pitch instructor courses.
I see.
And exams, and working with my long-term clients, occasionally taking on new ones. But I've also started picking up rope access work, and I'm an assistant trainer for IRATA and SPRAT. So now I'm using my experience teaching and guiding to teach a new trade to people in those organizations.
I guess you also choose and pick your work on the rope access terrain too, because I also have quite a few climbing friends who do that line of work because it pays a little bit better.
It pays a lot better.
Yeah. Or I should say a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's, from their story, it seems like it's very physically demanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that also your experience too? So that made me wonder whether it's even less female friendly, say.
Oh, it is far less female friendly. Yeah, I think it's maybe, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I guess it's definitely under 5% female in those organizations.
Right. So but, you like those type of things.
Apparently. But I've had really great female mentors in rope access.
Awesome.
But a lot of great male mentors too.
Right.
But yeah, Amanda Smith, who I first met working my first, rope access light, I call it, job for Over the Edge. It's an organization that holds fundraisers for nonprofit organizations, and they help facilitate rappelling experiences off of high-rise buildings. And they use rope access equipment and techniques to make that experience happen for somebody who walks up off the street, essentially, and pays $1,000 to rappel off of a high-rise building.
Yeah.
But Amanda, she was, one of my first bosses, so to speak. She's now a level 3 rope access technician, and she just really was great about showing me how all the systems work and all the rigging and the nuances with that. And then now we work together on a semi-regular basis. She's a trainer for Rig Rope Access, which is a company that's based here in Las Vegas that provides training and certification for IRATA and SPRAT rope access technicians. So when I go in there and assist, I get to work with Amanda. And it's Amanda and I in there with largely a bunch of dudes, from a wide range of walks of life and different professional or, trade backgrounds. And so that's pretty cool to be in that power, that position of power.
Right. And then it seems like at least nowadays, if they sign on a student role, they look up to you, I think. It's just like they will not say, oh, we need a male instructor. They know that it's female instructor, strong instructor out there.
Yeah, I mean, they know when they show up and walk in the door. I don't think they know who their instructor is prior to signing up, but yeah, it's never been an issue.
Great,
to my knowledge, anyway. Yeah, people are there to learn, and I think having that mindset going into it, they're willing to take direction and feedback, and just carrying yourself confidently and treating people as the human beings that we all are, and as an equal, not as a lesser or a greater. I think it helps level that playing field.
Right. Actually, I have to step back a little bit because now we got distracted. Access work.
That's what editing is for.
Yeah, and I was wondering because you were involved with Chicks with Pics, which was the very original name, was the Chicks program, and they rebrand themselves into Chicks Climbing and Skiing. And I think that's when you step in as part of the owner, right? When they became Chicks Climbing and Skiing.
Right. Yeah. When so Chicks with Pics was started, I remember seeing the ads in those climbing magazines.
I remember that
when I first started climbing, and I remember seeing the prices and going, "Oh my god, I'd love to do that, but I could never afford to do that."
Oh, okay.
So I remember the ads in the back of climbing magazine classifieds forever ago. And then I was in Ouray with Chad. We were there ice climbing. He got me into ice climbing because he was, he would go there every winter and spend a week or two. And I'd met him up there. And I'd had dabbled in ice climbing before, but he really was more passionate about it. And it was he's been a great teacher and a mentor for me in that medium, as well as route development. But I digress. So we were in Ouray, and there was a slideshow fundraiser thing that Chicks was offering, and he bid on it was a silent auction, and he bid on a day of climbing with Dawn Glantz, who is she's a mixed climbing maven, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like going climb with Lynn Hill, you know, it was like that level of I was fangirling out. And so he bid on that for me, and then I became friends with Dawn and went back the following winter. And she's like, you're the one who won that in the silent auction. He's like, we're just going to go climbing. So we became fast friends. And then the opportunity came up to buy Chicks because Kim Reynolds, the founder, was moving on, and she passed the torch on to us. And I had worked with Chicks previously through New River Mountain Guides offering women's programs, but I met Dawn, and then I crossed paths with Kitty a bunch, and Angela Hawes, of course, and then we brought on Karen Bockel, who is now an IFMGA guide, and she had worked for Chicks, and so basically 5 of the Chicks guides bought the business. We rebranded it Chicks Climbing and Skiing, and then kind of expanded the programs beyond just ice climbing, which Chicks was predominantly known for, and expanded the rock climbing, alpine climbing, and skiing.
Right, because you have Kitty Cajon is legend, living in the high mountains, and right, and then you have 2 IFMGA guys.
And Dawn Glantz, she's an alpine guide and a rock guide.
So
and
definitely
then me, a little old rock guide.
Cool. But then it after dissolved, right?
So we sold the business right at the beginning of COVID, actually.
Oh, okay.
And,
so it's not because of COVID.
It was definitely part of it. It was a lot for 5 people
Probably
to manage.
just too many cooks in the kitchen.
Lots of cooks in the kitchen.
So it's hard to, especially you all travel in different.
Yeah. It was a challenge just coordinating everybody and everything between 5 people.
Yeah. So the communication overhead is.
It was a top-heavy organization, and so it really needed just an individual or 2 to carry on, and COVID caused a lot of people to re-examine their priorities in life, and I think that happened to all 5 of us individually. And we decided the best thing for the company was to pass it on to a smaller management team. And so Lindsay Fixmer, who's been a long-time guide for Chicks. She's kind of the managing operations manager, I would say. So she's running that, and it was actually rebranded into Iris Alpine.
Great. So basically just kind of downsize the management team to make it more nimble, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It seems like, your life's all about, meeting new people, learning new experience, and then evolve. Okay, some challenging comes, and what should we do and solve this problem? Mm-hmm. Then have you ever have like some panic moment though during all the turns? It's all just like, I'm just stay calm. This is just who I am,
I think I'm pretty calm generally.
Awesome. Yeah,
I mean, if I panic, I'm panicking on the inside.
Right. If I go out guiding, even if I don't know the route, I mean, they better not show it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not my nature either to panic. And
right.
I tend to, when I am guiding in that case, I like to stay in more familiar terrain, know, and
not just all on-site guiding all the time.
Yeah, and it depends on the client. Some clients you can on-site guide with, and share that sort of decision-making processes that go along with that with them. But with an unknown client and unknown objective, that's a lot of unknowns.
Yes, to deal with. Yes, you keep yourself a little buffer, basically.
Yep,
so we never go into this panic mode.
Yeah, if you're panicking, then
things is gonna crumble.
Yeah. Yeah, need to adjust.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you're still guiding, obviously, and teaching courses, doing a little bit of rope access work. What's your hobby then? I mean, I got asked this all the time. People just say, Tini, what do you do?
Yeah, so my newest hobby I've been doing for several years now is dirt biking.
Dirt biking?
Yeah.
Wow. Like downhill dirt biking?
Like motorcycles.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's downhill, it's uphill, it's a cross hill, it's upwash, downwash.
Sounds pretty adventurous.
Yeah, it can be
more risky than climbing.
Yeah, I mean it can feel that way at times, but it's so fun.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the
and here in Vegas we have a lot of terrain.
So good.
I
yes.
see.
Yeah, any direction. There's a lot of public land, and you can quickly cover a lot of ground and explore, canyons and mountain ranges and valleys, and it's a cool way to interact with the desert and see new places and explore. And there's no people out there, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
There's no crowds. You don't have to wait in line for a route.
It's like, okay, how many parties ahead of us? So I already wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah. Well, really don't need to get up for Birdland.
I was actually on Birdland the other day. I got into Louvre at 6 a.m. I was the fourth party. Can you believe this?
Oh my! See, this is
oh my God.
That's insane.
Yeah. So then, do you still have some climbing goals then that you wanted to do?
Oh, I've really.
Oh, you kind of like, I'm more dirt biking.
Yeah, right now I'd say my immediate goals are more dirt bike based. Climbing goals, I've been so fortunate to achieve so many of them. I'm not done climbing per se, but I've shifted my attention to dirt biking, and that's been really fun to have something totally different, definitely. To be brand new at and learning. I've been climbing 28, almost 29 years, and
wow, time flies.
Yeah, I'm still learning, but I've had so much experience that it's not like earth-shatteringly new things that I'm learning. It's just modified old knowledge into newer, better application of knowledge. But dirt biking, it really helps me. It checks that box of like learning a new skill and progressing at something. Like
it's always nice. Yeah, it's always nice to learn something new.
Yeah, to see progress.
And see progress. Yeah, right now
with climbing, it's hard.
It's like I train and then I still don't see much difference.
Yeah, the plateaus are long and far into the distance. in the past, it's like I've been climbing the same level for so long. Like the gains are minute, very, very small. So it's nice to see bigger gains in something, and engaging in a different kind of sport
definitely
enables me to have that sort of that feeling of, I don't want to say success, but it is in a way.
Well, so far I think I asked all the questions I want to ask. I bet I probably have more questions. I'm just like, how am I gonna network? How am I gonna meet all these awesome people? Yeah. And then maybe actually I probably would ask you to help me to introduce some other female guys that I can interview. That's like probably my immediate request.
I can definitely put you in touch with people.
Definitely.
I'm happy to help you.
Awesome. Okay, I cold call somebody if they didn't respond. So I'm gonna ask Elaina to help me with this.
I'm happy to help.
Hey, so how can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on the social medias.
Like Facebook, Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, yep. Definitely I'll put your handle on the show note on Instagram. Elaina Climbs.
Yeah, Elaina's Climbs, my Instagram handle. That's a good way to reach me.
The last thing I want to say is, I think that's cool. I just heard your most recent podcast. You were interviewed by your niece.
Yes, I just saw her in Phoenix.
It
last
is
week.
awesome. Yeah, and then she kept referring you as like, oh, I have this cool aunt. This is cool aunt.
Yeah,
and I have two nieces too. I hope I will hear somewhere that they will like refer me as a cool aunt.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Very happy to have you, and thank you so much for giving me your precious time for this month.
Bet. I'm happy to help, and it's great to see you.